Hey guys, and welcome back to Teal House Farm, and today we're going to talk about canning lids. And some of you have been waiting for this video for a really long time, but I wanted to have more time to try my new lids to decide how much I really like them so that I can give you really fair and complete rankings. So now that I've used some of these new ones multiple times, I feel like I can give you a really honest review of all of the lids that are easily, I'll say easily available on the market. There are always other brands, right? There's some like weird off-brand names you can find on Amazon, and there's always regional brands, but these are all things that are common and easy to find, and I want to talk about them, and I'm going to rank them and rate them and tell you why my opinion is such, so maybe to help guide you if you're looking at trying a new lid as to whether or not something is worth its time and effort. For starters, let's talk about reusable lids. So basically, if you are in the United States, you know that canning jars typically come with a disposable lid that you're supposed to only use one time. Some of us don't always follow that rule. But you can decide not to have disposable lids at all and buy reusable lids. Now, there are more types available that I'm going to show you, but these are the two I have experience with and I want to talk about them. First, we'll talk about the Tattler Lids, which are designed to fit on top of a standard American mason jar. They come in both regular mouth and wide mouth sizes, and both sizes work the same way. It's a two-piece set. The box comes with 10, I believe, 12. Comes with 12. Box comes with 12. It is a two-piece set, and you put them together like this, and it works just like a disposable lid would work. Very simple. The issue with the Tattler lids is that when you kind of do the math and figure it out, it takes about 10 uses for it to pay for itself, meaning it takes using this thing 10 times where you broke even versus just buying disposable lids 10 times, if that makes sense. That's quite a lot of canning. Now, I do a lot of canning, but usually when you put something up, it sits there for maybe most of the year, and you don't use that lid again until the next year. And so that's 10 years to get your money back. That's a pretty big investment. But the other pro would be you're never, when you have a lot of these on hand, if the market happens again like it did in COVID, where lids were hard to find, then you're safe and secure. You have plenty of lids. They're available to you and they're reusable. You don't have to depend on the market supplying them to you, which is really nice, especially if you're more into prepping. It's really another step towards self-sustainability, but the cost really can be a block for people to get into the market. I only have one box of Tattler lids, and I've used them all multiple times. I know I have one that I've marked that I keep track of. I use it regularly. I've used it 10 times and it still works well. So it's paid for itself now, and it's lasted those 10 times. But I have not bought more just because of the cost comparison. When I'm thinking, oh, I need lids for this canning project, do I want to buy 2 boxes of Tattler lids, or do I want to buy the way cheaper disposable lids? It usually ends up on the cheaper side. But they work well, and I will recommend them, and I will give them a 7 out of 10 with the 3 points missing only because of the cost comparison, not because of like reliability. Next up, we have the Weck jar. Now, this is a European type canning jar, meaning that if you go to Europe, from what I've heard from our viewers and what I've seen online, the American style jar with a disposable lid are hard to find. This type of jar, and there are other brands that make a glass jar, are much more common. But if you're buying them in the United States, they kind of break the bank. These are really expensive. The price will fluctuate a lot when you're looking on Amazon, and that's usually where I'm able to find them, where they will be able to ship to me. It can cost a lot. And I think the last time I looked, it was $6 a jar for ones that are similar to half-pint size jars, and so that's a lot. I do like them though, because they're really pretty looking. I'm sorry, this one's kind of cloudy. I just tried to rinse it out real quick. I should have scrubbed it. They usually are crystal clear. But it works like this. You have clamps that you put on during canning that hold the jar lid down. They work like your ring works, and you remove them for storage. Once your jar has sealed, got a glass top here with a rubber seal. Once it's sealed and you want to open your jar, you pull the top, boop, and your lid comes off, and thankfully it's very durable glass. You won't break it real easily. And then you can just reuse the whole system over and over and over again without ever having to buy anything. Downsides, obviously the cost. I did find that there was a little bit of a learning curve to using the clamps correctly to get a nice seal, but I really like having these for pretty things, for like marmalades and cranberry sauce and things with bright colors that are lovely to look at in the jar. I don't feel like it is sustainable at all cost-wise to try to do all of your canning in these size jars. And there are also more sizes of these jars available than there are in the United States for US system measuring jars, if that makes sense. So you may have hard time finding recipes, at least the USDA approved recipes, that match the sizes available for these type jars. Okay, let's talk about disposable lids, which is probably what most of you are looking at and are here for. So I have 5 different types that I have used regularly, and I feel like I can give a really strong and hopefully valid opinion on. And first of all, I just want to show you them. These are in no certain order. So we have the Golden Harvest, which is your unique gold colored lid. You have Kerr style jars. The wide mouth Kerr lids no longer say Kerr on them. We'll talk about that in a minute. The regular sized ones usually do. We have ball lids. We have Superb, which is a made in the United States brand. And we also have 4 jars, which is also a made in the US brand canning lid. Now, I am going to talk about these in order of most hated to most loved. And this makes me sad to say, because 5 or 6 years ago, I would have had this company at the top of my list, but the quality has just plummeted, especially since COVID, and that is the Kerr lid. If you bought Kerr jars a while ago, all of the lids would say Kerr on them, and that is no longer true. So I think, in my opinion, they have switched manufacturers, and this is just like a generic, it looks generic. I think they've switched manufacturers and they're just boxing up generic lids. Don't mean to start any negative propaganda because I have nothing other than my opinion to back that up. But this lid is terrible. I'm sorry. It's flimsy. The rubber on the bottom is not thick enough for a really good seal. They buckle in the pressure canner. At first I thought I was doing things wrong because about 50% of my jars would buckle. I had the first load come out and I was like, oh my gosh, did I get my pressure wrong? Did I get my timing wrong? Did I overfill the jars? But then as load after load of these lids were coming out, half of them were buckling. And I realized pretty quickly that it wasn't me, it was these new lids. And I had bought a whole flat of Kerr lids because I loved them so much previously. But since whatever change it was they made, these are terrible. And now I only use these for storing leftovers. I do not can with them. And I'm sorry that I don't have a box, but I hate them that much that I didn't save any boxes. I just took some lids out and saved them. So you just have to go for my word that this is what the Kerr lid looks like now, because I don't have a box to prove it, which I'm sorry about, but promise you. And they buckle, and I give this a 3 out of 10 because the only thing I feel like it's reliably good for is storing leftovers. At least it fits the top of the mason jar, so I can do that, but I would not can with them ever again. Next up, on a little happier note, is the Golden Harvest lid. And I also don't have a box of these because I don't buy these that often because I prefer other brands more. I don't really have a lot of negative to say about these. This is a pretty run-of-the-mill lid. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. They're relatively reliable. You'll have some failed seals every once in a while. I think it's because when compared to other lids, if you feel the seal isn't quite as thick, the rubber on the back. I also don't really like that they are gold, and that's just a personal opinion. I find that this gold is harder to read when I write on it, and I'm not one. I know some people use stickers and disposable labels. I want to spend as little money as possible in life, and so I just use a Sharpie to mark all my jars. And I find something about this gold lid that even the Sharpie smudges on it, and it can make it hard to read, especially if it's been sitting on your shelf for a while. So I find them hard to mark up, and that loses some points to me. But if this is all that's available, or this is the cheapest one available to you, it's a decent lid. It's going to do a good job. I don't have any real negative things to say about except a couple of those personal preference time things. So, okay, next up we have the ball lid. This is a wide mouth. And by the way, all of these opinions go for both wide mouth and regular lids for the brands I'm talking about. All right, so this is the ball lid. These still do say ball, which is great, and I like that ball always has the date markings on them. I know that that's really particular and maybe a little OCD of me. This just kind of bothers me. Which way is up? Which end do I write on? This is nice and clear. All my jars can be lined up to match, easy to read, and I can mark the bottom. I like that. I like that it's silver. I feel like the Sharpie writes on it well. And it's a reliable lid. It's a little bit more expensive because of the brand name than the Golden Harvest. So that's something to consider. Though when we're talking about more expensive, we're talking about cents on the dollar per box. It is not extreme. It has a decent seal rate. I do feel like, similar to the Kerr, that the quality has gone down just a little bit. They just feel a little lighter to me. I know that that's really subjective, but I haven't had buckling problems. I haven't had sealing problems, so I give these a strong 8 out of 10. It's gonna get the job done. Loses a couple points. I do feel like maybe they've gotten a little chintzy. It just feels lighter, and also simply because I feel like they are more expensive than like the Golden Harvest, but not really providing a much better quality lid. Also, I will add that the ball lids are also made in the USA. I am not sure about Kerr and Golden Harvest because I don't have a whole box to be able to read the box. All right, also made in the USA, we have the Superb canning lids. These are my next favorite. We're getting to the top, and these I give a strong, like 9 out of 10. So where do we, well, we'll talk about all the great things. They seal really well. It's a very heavy lid. I mean, just feeling the difference. You can feel the difference in your fingers. You can 1000% feel the difference between this one and this lid's half the size, and it feels like it weighs twice as much. So no buckling issues. Nice thick cushion rubber on the bottom. You know that that seal is going to be awesome and tight. The negatives for me, so I've only had these for 4 months maybe, but I've used them through several canning experiences, both water bath and pressure canning, and I have had one seal failure. And so if, you know, it could have been user error, but until I do even more, I'm not sure if that seal failure, it just means these are going to fail a little more than the 4 jars that I'm going to show you in a second, or if this was user error. I also, again, I just, personal preference, I don't like that it's gold and there's not a place to write on. I feel like the Sharpie smudges more on the gold and it's harder to read. And they don't have the, the nice, neat date line, which I like too. 9 out of 10 though. You really can't go wrong with these. They're gonna get the job done. Made in the USA, really nice, heavy quality lid. Good. There's a reason a lot of people are talking about these. It's a good lid. Okay, and now for my favorite, the 4 jars. Also made in the USA. These guys get a 9.9 out of 10, and only because I don't want to ever give somebody a perfect score. 4 jars. I like several things. One, button. It just gives that extra pop when it pops. It's really loud and it's easy to see when it's on the shelf if it's still sealed because of the button. I will add that ball also has the buttons. Nice thick cushion on the back of seal. You know your seal is going to be super tight. It's a silver lid with date lines, and I have yet to have a failed seal with these, which is amazing. So, a 10 out of 10 recommend. Some of the downsides of these 2 that I ranked a little bit higher, the Superb and the 4 jars, they can be a little bit harder to find. You can't typically, especially if you're living rurally, just go to your closest Walmart, which still might be an hour away like it is for us, and find these on the shelves. Typically what you'll find are the ball lids and maybe the Golden Harvest lids. So usually you have to order these, and they do tend to be a little bit more expensive. But again, when we're talking canning lids, we're talking about disposable canning lids, not reusable ones. We're talking cents on the dollar differences in price, which really only starts to add up if you're ordering a lot, which you may be, because maybe you like to stock up. That's kind of up to you. But it's not such a big difference that it would stop me from purchasing this or this, because I really feel like the quality is worth it. So I hope that's helpful for you all. I would love to hear what your favorite lids are. Maybe you have a favorite lid that I haven't tried yet. These are all the things I've tried and used. I'm always interested in trying something new, so please comment below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.